Hey, everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I hope you had a great 4th of July. How was it? I mean, did you eat all the wieners or what? We didn't do wieners, we did chicken, and I have to say it was amazing. We had the best day. My daughter and her boyfriend came over. We grilled chicken, Mike's famous barbecue chicken, which truthfully is the best barbecue chicken that I have ever tasted in my life. And everyone that tastes it says that. But yeah, we kept it simple. We just did chicken and my mom's actual macaroni salad. I called her for a recipe. And honestly, I think that might be maybe the first time that I've ever called my mom for a recipe. She actually calls me for recipes. My mom's just never been a big cook, but she's always had this killer macaroni salad. So anyway, and I did it, and I woke up this morning and I had all of these leftovers, you guys, and it was just, I mean, I had chicken legs for breakfast and lunch. I just basically had everything that I had yesterday, I had today, and I will continue to have until it's gone because it is truthfully that delicious. Anyway, yeah, it was perfect. It was a perfect day. We got in the pool. We're about to move from this house, and we have enjoyed that pool in that backyard for so many years now. For like 12 years, we've spent every holiday, every summer holiday in that pool. So this was our last hurrah, and it was great. Perfect water, perfect company, perfect everything. So it couldn't have been a better day. I was so glad. It was so refreshing to have such a fun, light day because, in all honesty, this last week has been kind of a heavy one. This was the anniversary of my dad's death. And it's funny because, not funny, haha, but just funny because when your parent dies or when anyone dies, right? But like especially your parent, you really go into such a state of shock, just kind of low key, not like crazy shock, but low key. You go into a state of shock and you kind of numb out a little bit. And in this last little bit of time leading up to the anniversary of my dad's death, given the fact that I have experienced a whole year without him and have mourned not having him there for, the first Christmas, the first Thanksgiving, the first Father's Day, his birthday, my birthday. Yeah, it was just a series of firsts that you really kind of have to wrestle with. And then when the anniversary comes up, you can just feel it more. You're just more in tune because you've spent a year missing that person and you're not dealing with that time. Like last year at this time, I was in shock, but I've had this whole year to digest it, to process it, to really feel it. So when that time was coming up, on like the last few hours before he died, it was almost like a little bit of a panic set in. And strangely enough, I woke up. My dad died in the middle of the night, right? So we didn't know exactly what time he died, but I woke up that same night. I woke up in the middle of the night, eyes wide open. I reached over and I grabbed my phone, and the clock on my phone said 333. Not 332, not 334, 333. And three is, everybody knows that three is my number. Just a few days before that, I was with somebody that I work with and we were looking at new places and they were like, oh, look at this place. The address is 333. This is the most incredible number. And I said, that's my number. Three has always been my number. And 333 even more so, right? So I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, why am I awake? I look at the clock and it is 333, which I know was absolutely a sign from my dad to let me know that he's all right, that I'm all right, that everything's going to be all right. Anyways, it is blazing saddles here, you guys. California is in our first heat wave and it is a doozy. I'm going to need to go and get like some frozen peas to put on the back of my neck so I don't pass out during this. But I'll tell you what this weather is doing. It's driving people to the beach and into the water. And do you know what else is in the water? The highest population of sharks than there has ever been, right? People say, oh, you have a greater chance of getting hit by a bus. But the truth is that may have been the case in the 90s, but that's not the case now. There are sharks that I feel like are basically wearing bikinis and sunbathing. It's literally crazy the amount of sharks that are out there right now. Did you hear about Texas? I mean, yesterday, same shark bit 3 people. I mean, nobody needs it. Nobody needs it. That's their home. Anyway, what this is all leading up to, you guys, it's like not a coincidence that there's all this shark activity, and Shark Week is about to start on Sunday. And Shark Week is my jam. I am a great white expert, you guys. I want to be on one of those vessels. I don't necessarily even need to go down into the water with the sharks. I could just be topside, I just want to view them. I just want to see them. I just want to see them. Like, I want to see them so bad. And the activity has been just percolating like crazy. Malibu is absolutely teeming with white sharks. Chances are I will be in Malibu tomorrow, not shark hunting. I like to call myself a shark hunter, but trust me when I tell you, I don't mean like hunting to kill. I just mean hunting to see. So I will be in Malibu tomorrow, shark hunting. If you see me from afar and wonder what she's doing, I am hunting for sharks. I just need to see a shark. I want to see a white shark in the wild. Anyway, and I would prefer to do it on a pier. Wouldn't that be great if I could just stand on the pier and watch it, and I didn't even have to go out on a boat? Because when you're out there on the boat, there's always a chance of it getting a leak. And then what if the Coast Guard doesn't get there in time? And then I'm basically in a Jaws movie, and nobody needs that. Okay, now moving into the world of reality, we're still on relationship watch with Ben and Jen. And I don't know what's going on. It is not looking good, you guys. They spent 4th of July separated. He was here in LA with his kids. She was on the East Coast in the Hamptons, taking pictures with some lavender fields. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what's happening with those two, but I'm still cheering for them. I'm here for it. Maybe they just need a little time, a little adjustment. I don't know. According to everything I read, it's over. It's been over for months. But won't they be bummed if all of this time they thought that this was the one that got away, this was the one that was keeping them from living that fulfilled life, and lo and behold, it wasn't. And then, you guys, did you see our poor Sonia Morgan on Watch What Happens Live at that 15th anniversary special? I am so upset about it. And Jeff has come out and he has made a statement. And the thing is, Jeff Lewis isn't going to talk shit about Sonia if it's not like he wasn't talking shit. I think he was really making a genuine assessment of what he saw, and he's genuinely concerned. And who wouldn't be? Sonia has kind of given us all a lot to worry about for a long time. And she's such a good time Charlie that we always kind of chalk it up to that. But I truthfully think that Sonia has been in so much pain for such a long time. I think she really had a fixed mindset and she thought that this was what her life was supposed to be. And then when that didn't work out, she didn't know who she was because she'd placed so much value in that title of being a Morgan and just everything that went along with that. And she never really got to know who she was outside of that. And so she's kind of living in that discrepancy, and it's just created so much misery in her life. And it is so sad. Like, she lost that townhouse. She lost so much money on that townhouse. I don't remember what the number was she asked for it, but she got absolutely nothing close to it. And now what's happening? You know what I mean? She doesn't have Crappy Lake. That apparently got taken away because of her antics, because of her drunkenness, because of her behavior. And it's just so sad because she is such magic, and she just doesn't see it. You know what I mean? Sonia lives outside of herself. She feels like she constantly has to be performing to be that person that someone will love. And it's just a shame because I think she's just exhausted now. At some point it gets exhausting, right? Just constantly, you're like a performing seal. The poor thing, because she clearly has a heart of gold. Sonia is a good person. She really just needs to get in touch with herself and figure out who she is at the root of her, not with all the labels that come with the Sonia Morgan of it all. People are giving Jeff shit for that statement that he made, but truthfully, I don't think he deserves it because I don't think he was trying to hurt her. I think at some point we need to start telling the truth, because if you don't start calling it out, then you're just co-signing the craziness, right? And I think Jeff cares about Sonia. And I think he knows how incredible she is. She just needs to do a little internal healing. Katie and Ariana have filed a lawsuit against Chef Penny. Chef Penny, who thinks that she is an owner and entitled to 10% of everything. And then there's Brandy, who has come out and said that she now is being forced to sue Bravo because I guess she wasn't getting anywhere with whoever she was suing before. And I feel sorry for Brandy. It is such an unfortunate situation. I genuinely feel like she did get screwed over on that girls' trip and what happened with that Caroline Manzo thing. And I think that Bravo was terrified of Caroline Manzo and Brandy was the easy target. And it's unfortunate. And stress-induced angioedema can change your life. I mean, it will disfigure you. And how does a beautiful woman who has made her living on TV go out looking like a disfigured human? It's clearly taken a toll on her confidence, and how could it not? And there's new drama in the Bierman household. Apparently, Kim is being sued, get this, by her attorney, the same attorney who was working on her domestic situation with Croy. She owes that guy $70,000 and she has no money to pay him. So now he's placed a lien on their Georgia mansion. So if and when they sell it, he gets paid. But imagine that. You're asking an attorney to represent you because you don't have any money. Meanwhile, you don't have any money to even pay him. And now he's suing you. My girl Tamra Judge is now fighting back against allegations that Shannon made that Tamra was a crappy friend and that she abandoned her for Jesus Jugs, when in fact that was not what happened at all. Tamra repaired her relationship with Jesus Jugs at BravoCon long before Alexis even met John. And the truth of the matter is, it was Shannon that turned her back on Tamra. Basically, just because Tamra was being truthful with her about her concern over her drinking. Shannon just didn't like what Tamra had to say, so she just cut her out of her life, which is what happens with addicts, right? That's what happens. When someone starts telling you the truth and holding that mirror up in front of your face, you cut them out of your life because you don't want to hear it. You're not ready to deal with it. And Tamra says that the real reason that she pulled out of the Tres Amigas tour was because she just wasn't comfortable with how much Shannon was lying about how much she was truly still drinking. And the news is out. It is official. I told you guys, I have been saying it for the longest time. Lindsey Hubbard is pregnant with a little hub cub, and everybody is giving Lindsey such a hard time because she made the announcement as a paid spokesperson for like Clear Blue Easy. But so what? She now has a baby on board. She needs to provide for that baby. So don't begrudge the girl. I mean, because if she wasn't doing anything and she wasn't working, then you'd be giving her grief for that too. And can everybody just back up and make a little bit of space? Because here comes the truth. Finally, from Melissa Feaster, Teresa's former Namaste Bitches co-host. Big receipts have officially been dropped, and once again, someone that was very much in their inner circle has absolutely nothing nice to say about Teresa or Louie. In fact, it's just the opposite. We've all seen Teresa, Louie, and the whole lot of them really pushing that Namaste Bitches brand. One of them or all of them was sporting that podcast merch. The same podcast that went on break and never returned. But now we know why. I've been trying to tell you guys this, but now we have actual proof in the form of a text message between Melissa Feaster and Gabriella of Melissa's Old Nose, in which Melissa confides to Gabriella about the true nature of her relationship with Teresa and Louie. Things had been tense between the trio for a while. You could hear it on that Namaste Bitches podcast. Things were awkward, things were tense, things were just not cool. Then at BravoCon, shit went all the way south. And the root of what went wrong really boils down to two things. Louie not wanting Teresa to have to share the limelight, and Louie not wanting a woman around that he can't control. It was clear from the start that they didn't even really want Melissa at BravoCon, but they were tolerating her. Like, she's with us, but she's not one of us. She was like a second-class citizen to them. It was like Teresa was the star and she was just the quirky sidekick. Okay, listen to this. The text between Melissa and Gabriella went something like this. I'm going to read this to you. Gabriella says, "Good evening, Melissa Feaster. Did you guys take pictures together today? If so, could you please send it to me so I could post it to the Namaste Bitches IG? Thanks." Melissa says, "Ugh, I love you. Want to go home." G said, "Hi, love you back. You want to go home?" Melissa says, "Yes." G says, "What happened? Are you okay? Are you at the Bravos?" Melissa said, "Fuck no. I'm so over being here. I want to go the fuck home." G says, "Who hurt you?" Melissa says, "Guess." G says, "Louie? I'm so sad knowing you're hurt. I thought you were at the Bravos and I was literally just waiting to see pics of you and Tree." Melissa says, "I'm just so spent, G. I feel like I've been in the ring for 48 straight and then running 60 marathons. It's just so much stress with them. It's just so much stress with them every day in and day out, every single day. G says, I know it's a lot. I may show them love and support, but I don't agree with how they're all treating you. It's so upsetting. You do so much, and this is all too much on you. It's not right, and it's 1,000% not fair. Melissa said, I know. It was hard, G. Not gonna lie. Yesterday was hard. Today was an absolute kick in the face. G said, I can imagine. Melissa said, I see you sharing the Namaste bitches stories. Don't forget these two. I know I tagged you in a bunch. G said, I know it's easier said than done, but if anybody can do it, it's you. Melissa said, oh my gosh, I'm just going crazy right now. I've just hated being here and I haven't wanted to post anything about it. But these are good pics, so fuck everybody else. At least I'm making myself look good. G said, I know you had a shit day, but at least you looked hot, Melissa, and I'm sorry things didn't improve. Melissa said, this is just so hard every effing day. And I know I tell you, I just hope you know how much I love and appreciate you always being there and in my corner. G said, thank you. Stay strong. Melissa said, Teresa is begging me to come talk to her. Maybe she might hear her out. Now it's the next morning and the text continues. G said, good morning. I'm glad she reached out. Sorry I fell asleep and just now seeing your text. Did you meet her? How are you doing? Melissa said, oh my gosh, G. The madness is so effing insane. In Uber now, going home. Have so much to tell you. She doesn't care about us. She cares to use us for what she needs. But as people, as sisters, as friends, she doesn't give one shit. G says, this is so upsetting. Melissa says, I had a miscarriage, G, and she didn't ask me one time how I was doing, knowing that I've been trying to get pregnant. Not one effing time. Instead, she and her husband annihilated me, crushed me, screaming, yelling, degrading, and humiliating me. My friend, my sister, G said, she's cold. I'm sorry you're going through this and beyond heartbroken that you lost a baby. She's given you every sign to prove that she doesn't care. So effing wrong. You don't deserve this. Melissa said, thank you, G. You have no idea how much that and you mean to me. Honestly, I can't believe how badly it affected me. Now Wednesday, November 22nd. Melissa said, can you add that post that you made of my pics, Rockstar Glam by the incredible at Makeup by Maureen? She and Lindsey were my only saving graces during that BravoCon effing hell. Then on December 5th, G said, you know, every time you talk about this, you help so many. And by this, she's talking about her miscarriage and the fact that she had shared the news on that podcast that she shares with Teresa. And G asks, how did Teresa respond, if at all? And Melissa said, it was a joke. Not for 1 second would she think that her and her husband's disgusting, vile, and narcissistic actions had 1 ounce of contribution to what happened to me during that hell of a weekend. And essentially told me that yet again, I'm probably just not meant to have another baby and to not force it. And I do remember that that is exactly what she said. And I remember thinking, is this real? Is she really saying that? It was so clear at that point that there was no coming back. There, like, the relationship was done. The podcast was done. It was just a matter of time. Everything on that podcast between them just felt so forced and fake. And on Saturday, December 9th, Melissa says, I'm so disgusted by them, it's not even funny. G says, I keep saying that to myself. It's unbelievable the way they act. But then again, I am seeing it for myself, so I definitely believe it. So crazy. Melissa said, you hear what a lunatic he is, screaming in the background? And G says, yes, I can imagine it's how he went off on you. And there we have it. We've always known that Louie was behind all of that kerfuffle that went down with them at BravoCon. And now it's confirmed in these texts. They've made a big mistake, though, because she is a loyal girl. She writes hard for people, and she was writing hard for them, but they screwed her over, just like they eventually screw everybody over. Speaking of Teresa and Louie, at that Carlos King live show, Teresa came out and said that Louie was the one that should have asked her for a prenup because he has just so much more money than she does. She goes on to say, you know, my husband took his company public on the NASDAQ the day before he married me. But she fails to say that his company has since been removed from the NASDAQ, for shady behavior. Everything he does is shady. And I mean, if you ever doubt that, just refer back to that video of him being parked outside of that building saying that he was out in front of the Rue La La office and that it was named after him, Ruelis. My girl Chrissy Balls has it up. That was the video that made me fall in love with my girl Chrissy. That's when I knew that she was a hilarious bitch, when she did the whole Rue La La La. The guy, he lies. He is a pathological liar. I do not understand how has Teresa never seen the video? The video where he says he's sitting outside and says that he owns Rue La La, but nobody knows it. Crazy time. That's not normal. Okay, you guys, now it is time for my new favorite segment, Shit My Mom Says on Facebook. Are you ready for it? So I'm just going to go ahead and read straight from Facebook, Shit My Mom Says. My mom left this comment on the page of someone that I have known since I was 7 years old. We grew up together. We did theater together. She is now married to a very Hollywood guy, and they do a lot of very Hollywood things. And she writes, just 3 days ago, it is 9 o'clock in Bologna. We are having pasta, meatballs, and a second glass of Sangiovese. Yes, thank you. The comments go like this. Yes, girl. The next one. I found Europe is so different in summer from LA. Sunrise is at 4:30 and it stays light so much later. It takes a second to get used to. The next person. I was just there in April. The next person. I can't believe it's still so light. Sounds amazing. Next one. We had a great visit there in November. The next. I'll be right over. Sounds like a great time. Next one. That looks like fun. The next one. Did you move abroad permanently? I don't think I've seen a post from you lately where you are stateside. The response, LOL. LOL, no, but I travel a lot. Here's my mother. Who were you thanking? Because she said, oh, I just gave it away that it was a girl. Because she says, it's 9 p.m. in Bologna. We are having pasta, meatballs, and a second glass of Sangiovese. Yes, thank you. And my mother says, who are you thanking? Who are you thanking? Am I the only one? If your parent is doing crazy stuff like this on Facebook, please comment and let me know the shit they say. This segment might expand and I'll have you on and you can read some of your parents' greatest hits. You guys, there are so many. This is just the latest. She is something, I promise you. That one was easy. There is so much worse. Anyway, you guys, it's time to recap Jersey, and we don't have our Christy with us today. Christy is enjoying some time up in Truckee this week, which is up by Tahoe. It is so gorgeous. Hi, Chris, we miss you. I know she's listening. So on the latest episode of Jersey, everyone is still reeling from that fight at Teresa's Tipsy and Tulum party. Teresa's all confused because she turned her head for just a second and missed the whole thing. She just doesn't know how it happened. And we cut to Margaret's house. And can we please talk about, I'm going to keep my head turned like this because I think if I keep my head turned like this, you guys don't catch the glare. Also, before I forget, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, can you go ahead and smash that subscribe button right now? I will wait for you. And if you're listening to this on any of the other streaming platforms, go ahead, reach out and hit that follow button. Then we cut over to Margaret's house. And can we please talk about that level of decor? I mean, it is something. I mean, some people might call that a feast for the senses, and it kind of is, but some may also call it an assault on the senses. I mean, you don't know where to look. I feel like I could visit that place, but I'm not sure how long I could live in that level of busyness. But I love it. I love to look at it. Like in small spurts, would they show her house? I'm like, show me more. But what did you think of Marge's decor? Did you like it? Leave a message down in the comments letting me know if that's your style, if you're into it, or if you can't stand it. Anyway, Marge is stressing out about Joe's elevated PSA. Joe, on the other hand, is not stressing out just because Margaret is basically stressing enough for both of them. Over at Danielle's, she's planning the big bougie relaunch party, and talking about the guest list brings up the people who are not invited, namely Jennifer Aiden. And then Danielle recounts what went down between the two of them at that party, and that is when she said that where she is from, this is called getting yoked. And after Jen did that to her, then that's when she was on the full defense. Then Nate brought up the possibility of her dad coming to the party. And she did not dispute the fact that it would be really nice to have him there. Over at Dolores and Polly's place, we find out that Dolores has actually accepted Polly's proposal to be partners, business partners. And then Dolores says that if the company was up and running today, she'd need to take a day off. Well, she said she'd need to call in, and he said call out. Dolores said it was call in. Polly says it was call out. I personally thought Dolores was right. I think in Europe, they say call out. But in the States, we say call in because it's usually call in sick. So that's where Dolores got that from. That's what I think. That's my take on it. I've always called in sick. I've never called out. Have you called in or called out? Let me know that too. Leave that in the comments. I need to know. I personally, my ex-husband used to say call out, and he was from England, so that makes sense. So I think it's just different between the States and Europe. But let me know your thoughts. If you're in the States and you say call out, let me know. Anyway, whether it's call in or call out, Dolores is saying that if the company was up and running, she wouldn't be there today because she's still recovering from all the chaos that went on when her two friends started beating each other up. And then while Dolores was chatting with Polly, Rachel Fuda called and told Dolores that she looked exhausted, which I thought was a little rude because Dolores did not look exhausted. She just didn't have any makeup on. I thought Dolores looked beautiful. I'd like to see Rachel Fuda without makeup on and see how that goes. I'm sure she'd look exhausted. Rachel was calling from a juvenile arthritis event that she was hosting, support group where kids can get together and talk about their experiences with other kids that actually understand what they're going through, which honestly, I just think is so important for kids for kids that are going through that. And honestly, it makes me so happy to see. I mean, my autoimmune is hard to deal with and process and make peace with on a daily. As an adult, I can't imagine doing that as a kid. On the phone, Dolores gives Rachel the lowdown about what happened during the fight. But Rachel wasn't surprised because she'd already been reading a bunch online, stuff that was leaked by Teresa's people. Then it's time for church, and Father Joe is warming up to perform a very special ceremony, the marriage of Melissa's cousin Nick to his partner Mike. And Father Joe's words were such a beautiful expression of love and acceptance and gratitude and truthfully just the true meaning of family. Joe said that when he met Nick, he just assumed that he was straight, and he would say, "Hey, buddy, I bet you're really knocking the ladies dead," not knowing that his words and that narrative was keeping him boxed into a reality that wasn't his truth. And then Joe said that the day that Nick opened up and came out to him, he looked at him, hugged him, and loved him more than ever. And at that moment, I loved Joey Gorga more than ever. And I didn't even think that was possible because I love Joey Gorga. And honestly, I don't know anyone who doesn't. And I think if they say they don't, then they're probably on Teresa's payroll. I mean, Joe is saying this, and I'm just sitting there so emotional. It was the sweetest, most authentic expression of love. And honestly, I just love how much he loves and appreciates Melissa's family. And truthfully, I love Melissa's family just for how much they love Joey Gorga. It is so sweet to see. Over at Jen for Aiden's, Teresa and Messy Fessy get together for some crudité, and Jen gives them her version of what went down that night. And this is where the trouble between Teresa and her loyal lieutenant Jen really starts to brew. Teresa says she feels like she's in the middle, and she feels bad going to Danielle's event knowing that Jen's not going to be there. Teresa says, "Are you okay with me going?" And Jen says, "It's fine. You know I'm not going to tell you not to go." And then in confessional, Jen looks into the camera and says, "I'm disappointed in Teresa that she's going. I thought she was a loyal friend. And now you go to a girls' party that hit me? Like, that's no good." Back in scene, Teresa says, "Danielle hasn't done anything to me yet." And Jen says back, "But I don't care who it is. If somebody punches you upside the head, I'm not going to fucking like them. Whether they did something to me or not, I would never." Cut back to confessional, and Jen says, "I'm just disappointed, and my feelings are hurt. My feelings are hurt." Then in Teresa's confessional, she says, "Listen, I'm not trying to upset Jennifer, but I'm like friends with both of them, yes, and I just want them to make up and move on." Then Marge finally gets her long overdue copy of Jackie's book, and it comes unsigned. And truthfully, at this point, after all that's gone down and all of that unbelievable stuff that Jackie said to Dolores about Margaret, why would Jackie go home and then send Margaret a copy of the book? Like, at that point, it just feels like such a pathetic attempt. Like, she knows that she really screwed up by what she said and made a complete ass of herself. So now she's going to send the book. This is her olive branch. This is the bridge she's building. Oh, here's the book I should have sent you like months ago before anyone else got it. This is going to make up for the fact that I said all of those horrific things about you. Jackie. Then Marge calls the doctor about Joe's results. Joe's numbers are crazy high and the doctor wants an MRI and then possibly a biopsy, and Marge is shook. And I mean, honestly, who can blame her? She hasn't even recovered from losing her ex-husband. And now the threat of Joe being sick, that's a lot. Then we're at the Bougie Kids relaunch party, and it was bougie and glittery and truthfully everything I am not, but very on brand for Jersey. Very on brand for Jersey. Then Danielle gets some bad news. Her dad won't be able to make it because he's sick. He thinks he might have COVID. And it was very obvious that she was disappointed and had been looking forward to the fact that she thought he was coming. Okay, it's hot in here, you guys. It's so hot in here, but I can't turn the air on because it'll screw our audio up. And this is the heat wave that's happening in Los Angeles. It's brutal. Okay. Rachel and her daughter arrive, and then we see Tiffany with the pretty teeth, followed closely by Messy Fessy, who walked in and said to Danielle, "Listen, I don't think either one of you expected it to escalate to that point." Danielle said that what Jen said about her that night were the most horrific things, and they're just not true. And she also said that she realized that night that a person that she thought was a friend of hers is actually one of the darkest human beings on the face of the earth. She said the triggers for me were, I stole from a charity, and in that split second, I lost a friend. Rachel Fuda chimes in and says that having someone say that you steal money from a charity is one of the top 5 worst things that you could ever say about anybody. And I mean, it's bad. It is bad. Fessler says to Danielle, Jen thought that you were profiting from the charity. And Danielle says, that's psychotic. Rachel speaks up and says what she's actually doing is questioning her integrity, and it's not the first time. She says that the last 3 times they've been together, it's been a different accusation. Then Danielle tells Fessler that she actually prayed to God that he have mercy on Jen Aiden's family when he puts down her karma. She said, I actually prayed on that. And then Jen Fessler looks at her and says, Danielle, she didn't sleep with your husband. And Danielle says, well, she shoved me aggressively. And Jen says, well, she has a very different story about that as well. And Danielle goes, wait, she has a different story than she shoved me aggressively? And Jen says, yes. Then Pretty Teeth Tiffany says, what's the story? And Jen Fessler proceeds to tell them Jen Aiden's version of events and wraps up her summary with, and then she clocked me. Danielle says, I couldn't punch her. I had a cup in my hand. Pretty Teeth Tiff says she only threw the drink. Then Fessy gets really messy, looks at Danielle and says, you know that you were a part of what happened, right? And Danielle says, it sounds like you got her back. And Jen says, I do. I'm friends with her. And Danielle very seriously says, she's lucky I didn't knock her head off her shoulders, Jen Fessler. Then Dolores walks in, followed closely by Teresa and 2 of her girls, one of them being Gia. And when Rachel Fuda saw them walk in, she walked away and went to find the nearest toddler to talk to. And I get it. Gia pipes up and asks Jen Fessler what it was that John Fuda said about her, and tried to make it out like John had done something wrong because of this distorted information that she got from Teresa. Surprise, surprise, right? I mean, this dysfunction of Teresa now trying to poison Gia so now she can come in all guns blazing. It is so, so dysfunctional and honestly gross. I feel like I'm watching generational trauma be passed down to the next generation, watching Gia in scene. And Jen Fessler did shut it down. She did try to smooth the waters, but the truth is Gia probably wouldn't have felt comfortable enough to bring it up if they weren't already talking about the drama. And she had already said, you know, everybody talks so badly about each other except Gia. Like she was looping Gia into the conversation. So Gia felt safe to bring that up. And then what she did, Fessler was like, no. And she tried to put an end to it. And then she tried to explain to the girls that what she was doing was trying to put an end to it. But they were like, no, you shouldn't have been talking about that to begin with. And I mean, and she's right. I mean, it's true that she shouldn't have been including Gia in the conversation. But when Gia is standing next to Teresa, I can imagine it's hard not to. Anyway, when Rachel finds out, she flips out and she does not want to hear it. She is pissed. She does not want her name on Fessler's lips talking to Teresa or anyone associated with her. Messy Fessy's a little rattled because she thought she was defending John and doing the right thing. But then Melissa and Margaret and all of her girls come at her and tell her to stop campaigning for Teresa. And she's like, I wasn't campaigning. I was defending John. But you wouldn't have been defending John if you hadn't opened that conversation up next to Gia to begin with. Luckily for Jen, Dolores steps in and tries to create some context and say that indeed she was just defending John. And thank God she did. Otherwise, I don't think they would have believed Fessler. But at this point, Rachel still doesn't want to hear it. She's on her way out the door, and Fessler's walking behind her calling her a big baby, which she was being. And that was how it ended. Speaking of endings, now we know what went down at that big finale dinner. The one that was so explosive that now we're not getting a reunion. We all saw the broken glass, but now we know that there wasn't just one fight that broke out, but numerous fights. The big one being between Teresa and Margaret Josephs. And apparently what this all really comes down to is Teresa feeling betrayed by Margaret. She said she feels like Margaret's been trying to take her relationship down since the beginning and can't believe that Margaret talked to Louie's ex Vanessa, especially since Teresa invited Margaret to her wedding. But truthfully, how could Margaret not talk to Vanessa? She went and she participated in your wedding, and that was great. But not long after that, she found out that your new husband had hired a PI to look into her life and her family's life, and called her son at work. So of course she's going to want to talk to the ex to find out what kind of guy this really is. Teresa would have done exactly the same thing. And it's really telling the way that Teresa works because apparently Margaret said, Jackie did the same thing. Why don't you have a problem with her? And Teresa said, well, Jackie and I weren't on good terms at the time. She didn't think that she was friends with Jackie at the time, so she wouldn't be surprised by Jackie reaching out to Vanessa. But she was surprised that Marge did it because she thought that they had a real tight friendship, not paying any mind to the fact that that relationship got damaged by her husband doing what he did first. You know all that evidence that Teresa's been talking about? Oh, I'm going to be vindicated. You'll see. While the Namaste Bitches podcast was happening, she mentioned it every week that she's going to be vindicated, that everybody's going to find out what Margaret really did and how terrible Margaret really is. But really, all that she was talking about was this conversation that Margaret had with Vanessa, Louie's ex. But of course, Margaret's going to talk to Vanessa to try and figure out what this guy's all about. He's doing all kinds of weird, shady shit. Who wouldn't? I think the truth is that Teresa is just terrified of Vanessa. She's terrified of the impact that Vanessa had on Louie. Teresa cannot be comfortable with everything she found out about how Louie set Vanessa up and was really doing all he could to find out what was going on in her life. Plus, Vanessa is beautiful and she's smart and she's accomplished and she can hold a conversation. I know because I've had conversations with Vanessa and she is an incredible woman. Then apparently Jen Aiden said that Nate had man boobs and Danielle went bananas and those two really got into it. Apparently Danielle went full Staten Island and threw a glass pitcher, and that's the glass that you see in the trailer. And the third and final fight was Teresa and her beloved sister-in-law, Melissa, because apparently Teresa called Melissa a whore. And I can't say I'm surprised, are you? I'm not surprised that Teresa said it, and I'm not surprised that Melissa reacted. And the cycle just continues. And that's why there's no reunion. These guys have done it to themselves. And I know everybody wants to say it's Teresa and Melissa, but I'm just going to say one more time, it's not Teresa and Melissa. It's Teresa leading the charge and Melissa just following suit because she's not going to sit there and tag along and follow Teresa all the time and beg her to talk to her. Teresa is toxic, and wherever she goes, toxicity follows, because wherever you go, there you are. And where we are is at the end. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved spending this time with you. If you've been watching this on YouTube, please make sure you smash that subscribe button. And if you've been listening on any of the other streaming platforms, please make sure you hit that follow button. Please make sure you give us a 5-star rating. We would love that. Leave a comment. Share us with your family. Share us with your friends. If you'd like to follow me on socials, you can find me on TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking, on Instagram at The Jennifer Snook. If you'd like to collaborate or have a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can email me at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. If you'd like to get your hands on some of this adorable Generally Speaking merch, I will leave the link in the description below. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have an even better week ahead. And until we are together again, stay rooted in love, everybody. See you next time.